Morning, all. Welcome back, and all that wonderful stuff. And hey, this is one of those rare occasions where I'm wearing a hat that I got through Hatland. I'm wearing a jersey, and this is actually a Reebok Authentic. This is one I got from Full Moon Jerseys, and the decal or decal, depending on which part of the world you're from. The decal that I got I want to say I got it through Amazon, and they all match. And I'm so proud. This is one of those proud moments where some of the old Penguin stuff looks pretty sharp, and I still think Penguins, you need to do something with blue. You gotta do something with blue. Next time out, next time they talk about reverse retro, look at your late 70s gear, make it happen, do it. All right, the Penguins, the team, we're going to see where they're at this year. Now, what's interesting is if you look at their last three seasons, they had 100 points in 2017-2018, 100 points in 2018-2019, and projected out to 102 points in 2019-2020. This is a consistent regular season team, but the problem is in the postseason it doesn't work. They lost in the return against the Montreal Canadiens. They lost, I think it's 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 playoff games now, dating back to 2017-2018, when they lost against the Washington Capitals in a series that they could have won, didn't win, and now they're a team that has their struggles. They got swept, of course, by the Islanders in 2019 as well. So what are the Pittsburgh Penguins? And when you look at who's out, who's off this team, it's quite a list. Matt Murray, of course, goes to Ottawa. He becomes their starter. They knew they were going to lose a goaltender to Seattle in a year, so you had to make a move. And you don't want to be spending too much money on goaltending either. Justin Schultz, of course, has gone to Washington. Patrick Hornquist gets traded to the Florida Panthers. Connor Sherry's gone. Dominic Simone, of course, goes to Calgary. Jack Johnson's gone. Nick Bukestad's gone. Patrick Marleau's gone. Marleau wasn't there that long. It was a rental, but still, a lot of players gone from Pittsburgh. And then you look at the additions. I guess you can count Casey DeSmith as an addition by subtraction, right? Because you've subtracted Marino. DeSmith should be the backup again. Kapanen was added from Toronto, and Mike Matheson was added from Florida, and they feel that Kapanen will fit on one of those top two lines, most likely with Crosby. And Jankowski, they added from Calgary, and you know what? He may have that bounce back. It could happen. But it is hard not to see this as a team that's probably in decline. The Hockey News, on their power rankings, have them at 13th. Sports Forecaster has them finishing 7th in the Metro. I have them finishing 5th in this division, whatever you want to call it, and it's the almost Metro. Well, why don't we call it the almost Metro or Super Metro? The Super Metro division, sure. This is going to be a tough challenge for them to stay in the playoffs after so much playoff disappointment. Now, of course, if you're a Penguins fan, you still have the Cups in 2016 and 2017, so nobody's feeling bad for Pittsburgh just yet. And of course, if Pittsburgh, let's just say Pittsburgh bottoms out and then wins the draft lottery, cue the conspiracy theories. Anyway, on the too low side of things, I went with Kapanen, who they got from Toronto. 69 games, 13 goals, 23 assists, 36 points. If he scores at that rate with Pittsburgh, it'll be considered a disappointment. Jim Rutherford believes that Kapanen has more potential than what was shown in Toronto. And it's strange because there are certain subset of fans, and I think media too, who when a player's in Toronto, they'll get a lot of criticism. And then as soon as Toronto parts with that asset, people will say, boy, they're going to regret that. Maybe. But that was a cap dump by Toronto. It was something they needed to do. And we'll see whether or not it benefits Pittsburgh. And I put Dumoulin on the board for a simple reason. Now, he played 28 games, 1 goal, 7 assists, 8 points. It's not that his point scoring is too low. It's that I think people forget how effective Dumoulin is as a defensive defenseman. And when he misses as many games as he has, and of course, Letang, you can't count on him to play a full schedule either, it does have a negative effect. And John Marino, who in his first year, 56 games, 6 goals, 20 assists, 26 points. I know, for Pittsburgh fans, I know how good Marino is. I was saying it last year during the preseason. preseason. There was preseason games with Pittsburgh that I watched. Did a full review, and I said, this Marino guy's fantastic. And there were a lot of people saying, well, Pittsburgh's playing all of the guys who aren't going to make the team, so don't get too stuck on Marino. He's probably going to have to spend time in the AHL. And then he was pretty darn good. So you don't have to sell me on Marino. I already know he's a pretty darn good defenseman. We've got a lot of good young defensemen in the NHL, but I've talked about that in previous videos. Rookie to watch, I went with Samuel Poulin. I would think he's got to make it this year, right? And so there will be openings on the wings for him to step in and maybe get himself a job. This is a team that, again, they really need that youthful energy. So goals for last year, they scored 3.2, which was 10th overall. Goals against, 2.84 per game, which was 12th. Their power play, low by Pittsburgh standards, 19.91%, which was 16th. Now, you could point to the fact that core guys kept getting hurt. That definitely makes it hard for your power play to get into some kind of a rhythm. But, yeah, penalty kill, 82.11%, 10th overall. So the special teams were a little bit above average overall, not too shabby. It adds up to 102% altogether, which is a little bit above average. But again, I would look for those numbers, especially the power play, to improve if we see Crosby stay healthy all year. Malkin, you're never going to get a full schedule out of Malkin. It's not going to happen. It's just one of those things. It's one of those certainties in life. You're not going to get a full season out of Malkin. So the core six, this is tough with Pittsburgh, and this is why. Pittsburgh is exactly why I bring up the core six, and I have this on the board. So I went with Gensel and Kapanen as wingers that are young. Now, if you're going to say, what about Brian Rust? Brian Rust, by NHL standards, is not that young. The NHL's median age keeps dropping, and you're seeing situations where players are 26 and younger far more than they're older. And so I have a hard time finding young forwards already in Pittsburgh's lineup that I say, yeah, that's the future of the team. And I think what this does is it shows how much they kind of need to keep going for it. And Rutherford may very well be sacrificing more draft picks just to shore things up at a trade deadline. Crosby and Malkin, I have them with ellipses around them. And, because I don't know who that next center is. McCann's not going to be that guy. I don't know who the next first-line center for Pittsburgh's going to be, and I don't know that he's a part of the organization. At some point in time, whether it's Rutherford in charge, whoever's in charge, somebody's going to need to pull the plug on the Pittsburgh Penguins' hopes of getting back to the Cup and try to, get that cupboard that's been pretty bare in terms of prospects full again. So that's the curious thing to me about their core six. And then Marino, I think, is a core guy, and Matheson's still young enough, and they've certainly invested in Matheson, so I put him on the board because clearly Letang is of the older variety, and Letang has issues with staying healthy as well. And then Jari and Net. They've decided Jari's their goaltender going forward. He is young. He should be their goaltender for maybe the next decade. We just don't know, right? So yeah. This is a team that shows why the core six thing is interesting, because I don't know that we have that next big center for them and who that's going to be. Coach Mike Sullivan has proven that no matter who's hurt, no matter who's out of the lineup, don't count Pittsburgh out. It's part of the reason why I have them higher up than the forecaster. On paper, and just when you look at the fact that they're an older team, again, at the time when the league's getting younger, I would probably tend to want to drop them down and say, yeah, they'll probably be 7th in this nightmare division, sure, maybe 6th at best. But I've got them at 5th because Mike Sullivan does manage to get wins where other coaches wouldn't. And I was a very big supporter of Sullivan, or I thought Tippett should have had a shot at Coach of the Year. And as well, Bednar should not be overlooked in Colorado. But Mike Sullivan is a coach capable of getting this team over the hump in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, things just seem to change. And that's something that they'll have to see if they can turn it around should they make it to the playoffs again. And of course, there's been a lot of talk about Jim Rutherford, and there are some Penguins fans that are not entirely pleased with moves made by Rutherford in the offseason, with the number of first-round draft picks that get traded, because again, they do need to restock that cupboard for when guys like Crosby and Malkin are older. And eventually, Crosby's going to have to age, right? I mean, you take a look at a picture of Crosby now and you compare it to his 18-year-old picture, and you're like, aging exists for him, right? Because that's at least that's how I feel about it. But yeah, Rutherford's going to have some interesting decisions to make. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade another first round draft pick. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Glass half full. You have Crosby and Malkin. You have a ton of experience. So if you're a glass half full kind of fan, you're looking at this team and saying we've still got a lot of the pieces we had when we won the Stanley Cup in 2017. There's no reason we can't do it again. However, if you're glass half empty, the youth movement is likely needed sooner rather than later. There's some young pieces here that are going to be good. I think Gensel's going to be good for a long time. But with Gensel, it kind of feels like Pasternak in Boston, where his line mates, I don't know how long they're going to stick around, and it'll be interesting to see how Gensel would play without a Crosby or a Malkin. I like Gensel. I think Gensel's a good goal scorer. I don't think he necessarily needs an elite center, but it helps, right? It helps to have that elite center. The next big hype, when you're looking at Pittsburgh's overall prospects, I'm like, man, I don't know. So I went with Calle Klang, who was drafted this past year, and there's going to be those who say, hey, Shannon just wants to see a goaltender make it to Pittsburgh with the name Klang so that he can make comments about Klang and pucks hitting the post. He wants to be able to do that in reviews, to which I say, you might have got me. But yeah, one of the goaltenders for Pittsburgh is likely going to be the next hype, and it's one of the reasons why you could trade Matt Murray. Jari's good for now. DeSmith's proven he can be a backup, and there are prospects coming up for Pittsburgh goaltending wise. So I went with Klang. I'm like, sure, why not? Sure. Their record throughout the season was interesting. They were 8-5 in October, 6-4-4 in November. In December, all right, well, Malkin's out. Crosby gets hurt. Malkin's back. It's a mess. A lot of guys getting hurt for Pittsburgh. They go 10-2 in December. And this was when I started thinking, hey, maybe they're going to win a Stanley Cup again. And I had them number one on the power rankings for weeks. They were 8-3-1 in January, and then it sort of fell apart on them in February. 5-7-1, and then in March they were 3-2. So a little bit all over the place. And of course, then in the return to play, they famously or infamously, depending on how you look at it, lost to the Montreal Canadiens in the play-in round. Now, against Boston, Pittsburgh was 1-2 this past season. Against Buffalo, they were also 1-2, which mildly surprises me, to be honest. Against New Jersey, 2-1. Against the Islanders, 1-0-2. Against the Rangers, 0-0-1. So they only played the Rangers once. Against Philadelphia, 2-1, and against Washington, they were 1-2. So against teams in their projected division, they were 8-3. So projected 102 points overall. When you look at their teams in their division, that would project to an 82-point season. It's ridiculous to project from 19 games to 82, but why not? And keep in mind, 56 game schedule. We'll get to an 86 game schedule later to make up for all the money the NHL is losing due to the shutdowns. But news now, the NHL is going to have a 184 game schedule. Ticket prices are only going to go up by 80%. Unrelated salary cap. Anyways, so yeah, we'll see how they do and if they're able to improve that record. And I was mildly surprised that they struggled against Buffalo. The Islanders too, the 1-0-2 record. But this is going to be close. This is going to be a tough division, and it's going to be tough for them to stay in it. So, what do you think about the Pittsburgh Penguins? They're standing currently. Are they as good as the regular season team that is consistently at a 100-point pace? Or do the playoffs, where they've fallen off in the last couple of years, as I said, against Montreal and against the Islanders, is that more indicative of where the Penguins are right now? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.